Hello, friends, and welcome back to episode 3 of season 2 of the Schoolyard Podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in Fifth on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. This is the Schoolyard Podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. Today's episode is a steamy one. We're talking STEAM education. In today's rapidly changing world, the jobs of tomorrow demand a mix of skills that traditional education often overlooks. That's where STEAM comes in, combining science, technology, engineering, art, and math to prepare students for future challenges. This approach isn't just about teaching subjects. It's about fostering creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills that are crucial in our technology-driven society. Join us as we explore how STEAM is bridging the gap between classroom learning and real-world innovation, equipping students with the tools they need to thrive in an ever-evolving job market. Today's guest is a personal favorite of mine, Brooke Brown of Teach Outside the Box, who is a national board certified teacher, national presenter, and curriculum author who specializes in STEM, makerspaces, coding, and robotics. With 20 years of teaching experience, Brooke has a passion for creating innovative products that foster memorable and engaging learning experiences. She is also the inventor of STEM bins. You can learn more about Brooke on her website, teachoutsideTheBox.com, and on Instagram and TikTok as Teach Outside the Box. Hi, Brooke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy.
Would you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background in education?
Absolutely. I first want to tell you thank you for having me today. I'm a huge
Oh my
fan
gosh.
of your work as not only an incredible advocate for your students and dedication to your students, but for teachers. And you've so many years in the classroom and you still have that spark and innovative drive. And you're just such a huge inspiration. I'm right behind you in my years of experience. And it means a lot to me to know that I can keep going and I can keep doing this and making a difference, but you're just a champion for students and teachers. So thank you. I was so honored when you asked me to be a part of that.
Oh my gosh.
You said you're in your 28th year.
Yes.
Right?
So you're gonna make me cry. I'm getting like goosebumps all up and down my arms. But I remember how starstruck I was when I met you in person. I was like, oh my gosh,
that's how I felt. That is so, I told my husband, like, this is Fancy Nancy. I've told you about her. I've showed you.
Oh my gosh.
Work and 28 years. This is my 21st year in education.
Woo,
so
that's amazing.
Like it feels like 1,000 sometimes, but I mean, and my teammate is even further along than that.
Wow.
That is just like a lifelong commitment and dedication. And so I spent 10 years in general education with first grade and second grade and third grade. And then for the past 10 years, I've served as a gifted resource coordinator for kindergarten, first, second, and third. So I pull gifted and talented groups. I do advanced literacy book clubs with first grade. I do push-in lessons with kindergarten on a weekly basis. I also do math enrichment groups with second and third grade. And then on Mondays and Fridays, my classroom serves as a makerspace. Wow. So all the students in kindergarten through second grade get to come to my room for very open-ended, play-based making. I have all of my robots out. I have all of my engineering tools out. Wonderful way for them to kind of explore engineering and robotics. And it's one of their favorite times of the week. I think that it's a wonderful thing that we've added to our school. So I did start creating resources and blogging back in 2013 for Teach Outside the Box. And that had turned a little bit of a side business into a full-blown business that is a big commitment of mine to this day. And my biggest passions are STEM, makerspaces, and coding and robotics as well. So
yeah. And your classroom is so beautiful. It's so like bright and colorful, and like I would love to just spend time and I want to come visit you and just visit your classroom and just play in there and make stuff.
Oh my god, oh my gosh.
And what state are you in?
So I'm in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yes, I've been here
Wow.
for quite some time. I love teaching here. It's a wonderful district, wonderful school. My teacher friends and I
Mhm.
have so much fun. I'm actually going to meet them to celebrate a couple birthdays in a little while. But we're very close knit as a staff, and my both kids go to school with me too, Ellie and
I
Bo.
love that.
So
Okay, so if you haven't seen Brooke's TikToks and Reels, okay, you and your colleagues make the funniest, cutest videos. Like you guys are dancing, you guys are singing, lip syncing. I'm like, I want to work at Brooke's school.
They are so much fun. And a lot of them are young and energetic and just
Hmm.
positive. And, on some of my hardest days, it really helps to be around those kinds of teachers. Because I think like we
Oh,
become
wow.
like the teachers we surround ourselves with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
One of my
exactly.
favorite parts about going to work, of course, the kids is my colleagues. They're so much fun. And, they're always down for a TikTok. They're always down.
Oh, I love
Like, in fact,
that.
they think of the funniest ideas too. There's so we need
Uh-huh.
to do some maybe this summer while we have some more time, but
Oh,
they're
I love
waxing
that.
the floor. So we are, cannot get in the school right now. So hopefully in the
Oh,
next couple of weeks we'll be able to reunite.
oh, I
So
love that. Okay,
yeah.
so I know you said like you love STEAM.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the difference between STEM and STEAM and what we want to call it. But have you always loved STEM and how did you become a STEM leader, a STEM teacher?
So I've always loved science. Even in general ed, a lot of times, teachers that, can shy away from science. It's not a strength or a passion of theirs. And science for me as a student I was always taking all of the extra science classes that I could in
Mm-hmm.
middle school and high school. And I loved doing science even with my youngest students. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime I could make it hands-on for them, it was kind of came to life in this whole new way. So when they introduced the engineering component, when kind of the next generation science standards came about,
Mm-hmm.
about 10 years ago or so,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved from gen ed to GT and STEM. STEAM was kind of an expected area of instruction for me, but there wasn't a whole lot out there
Mm-hmm.
for early childhood STEM in general. There was a lot for middle school and high school and even upper grades.
Mm-hmm.
But that lack of resources is kind of what inspired me to start creating my own resources for my youngest students. And the more I taught it, the more I learned about best practices. Our youngest students learn differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that early childhood component and that hook for engineering and hands-on learning just had me from the very beginning. So once I started teaching it,
Mm-hmm.
I was completely hooked.
Yeah. And it's so amazing how your district has a STEAM program like built in. That's so amazing. So our
Yeah.
episode 2 was on like play-based learning. And so we were kind of like touching up on like the STEAM stuff. And I was like, okay, I don't want to give too much away because I knew our episode was coming up. So
Yeah,
I'm
a
really
huge
excited.
advocate for play-based learning and
Yes.
all ages, especially
Yeah.
all ages need to be playing while learning.
Hmm.
So,
So
so
I know a lot of people still call it STEM. So our district, we implement the A, in me being an art education, like, I was an art education major. So I'm like, bring the A in. So it's STEAM.
yeah.
So would you say that's like the biggest difference between like STEM and STEAM, like adding the A for art?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much supportive of both. My district kind of uses the terms interchangeably, and the teachers in my district kind of use it interchangeably. And I'll always advocate for both. And I think regardless
Hmm.
of the acronym, the art is always inherent, always in
Right.
the engineering and the architecture piece. There's so much art inherent in science and math around us. So I do think adding that A makes it more of a priority,
Hmm.
more of an emphasis on that creativity and the aesthetic components. And I also think it gives it more of an emphasis on more open-ended solutions instead of that one right answer. Allowing that
Mm-hmm.
creativity in that final product is really important. So
Hmm.
again, I'm a huge proponent advocate for both, but
Oh, yeah.
I think arts are so important in all areas of education. So
Uh-huh. And it just makes sense, right? With like whole like technology piece and the engineering piece and then the science too, science math too. They all go together so well. So why do you believe STEAM education is crucial for students' future success?
so I feel that solving problems and that outside the box thinking is kind of what got me interested in STEM and STEAM in the first place. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what makes our world better. And I also love how we're overlapping, that right and left brain, that left logical thinking with the right creative thinking. We know that's what's best for our students. We know our students have strengths in both areas, but it's
Hmm.
this beautiful magic when it can kind of come together. I love how we can overlap subject areas and multiple types of thinking. For me personally, why it's crucial I think those we call them people smarts and self smarts, those interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. And one of the first things I noticed when I started teaching STEM to my students is those collaborative skills at work. I noticed, that productive struggle, them planning together and creating together. They had to come up with a solution to a problem together. And then in the very end, they get to succeed together. And it's just this incredible experience, memorable experience for the students. And those collaborative skills really can kind of come to life. And I think now more than ever, our students need to practice those collaborative interpersonal skills as much as possible. And it's such a fun and engaging and memorable way for them to actually take a real world problem and solve it together. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. And you have like all these different roles that students play within the groups. There's always kind of like the silent observer and like, the someone who's the communicator who will kind of like say, oh, he said this and she said this. So let's try, this together. And so you see all these different roles coming together to work together. And I think that's like real life skill, like real world life skill.
And I found that, certain students, especially coming from general ed, come to life during STEM challenges and STEAM challenges more than they would at any other time of the day. They get to show what they're good at. So our kinetic learners, our students who have, particular skills in leadership start to come out. And like you said, communicators, you start to see these strengths in these students and they have this opportunity to practice them. And it's just incredible to be a part of. It really is.
I love that. How do you think the integration of arts and STEAM will have transformed education in about 10 years?
That's really exciting to think about because when I think about how far we've come in just the past 10 years, specifically with early childhood STEM and STEAM, I'm really excited to see what the future holds. I'm hoping that we're going to see an expansion of more STEAM labs and more maker spaces, specifically at the elementary level, but all levels. I think those are so important. I hope that we see more collaboration between art teachers and science teachers and other specialists in the building, joining forces for more collaborative teaching and more project-based learning. I'm hoping to see more interest and engagement in STEM and STEAM fields from a wider pool of students. I do think in that art component can really hook in students that it might not otherwise hook in. One of them might be my daughter. She is very creative. She is very right-brained. And that A piece of STEAM is absolutely the piece that she is most passionate about. She might be one that would shy away more from the engineering component. My son is the opposite. And engineering and the math is what are going to hook him in. So really, our goal is to hook in as many students as we can. And it starts in our classrooms, even as young as kindergarten and first grade. But it's really exciting to think about, what the future holds in STEM. So.
And in technology too, right? Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, things that exist now didn't even exist. We didn't even think about those things back then. So like with the advancement of AI, for example, could you imagine like of all the things that are possible 10 years from now? It's kind of crazy to think about.
And just thinking about the things that you're teaching now versus 20 years ago, like if you had told me you're going to be teaching coding and robotics, I would have never believed you in a million years. Tech was never my strongest suit. And the more I familiarized myself with it, the more passionate I got. And, we learn right along with our kids, right? And that's what I'm hoping that we'll continue to do. We'll keep learning right along with our kids. And it's exciting to think. It's a little, nerve-wracking to think about too.
Yeah.
Everything.
So I want to say like about 7 or 8 years ago, I was coaching robotics. And when I was approached to be our robotics coach, I'm like, I don't know anything about programming. I don't know anything about robotics. And they said, the good news is that it's new to everybody. And so they said, you're just going to be the facilitator of learning. I'm like, okay, I could do that. And so I did, so I took some courses and I went to some training and that's what we did. We were learning together and, okay, so I love building the robot. I like the actual building component. I didn't love the programming and then the whole coding. But my team over the years, we've made it all the way to the world championships. And and those kids went on to our middle school team and they actually won the championship last year. So I'm like, I get goosebumps thinking.
You were an incredible facilitator.
Well, thank you.
When you let the kids take the reins too.
Yeah. They're like, when they come to you saying like, how do you do this? I'm like, how do you think we should do it? Let's problem solve. And they come up with all the different ways and they figure it out. I'm like, good job.
That is so how cool for you. They will remember that for the rest of their lives. Many of them will probably choose a career field in that
Yes.
area, like a STEM or STEAM career. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Oh,
And we had
cool.
an all girls team too. And they were not only so cute, but they were like, like girls in STEAM. And so it was pretty awesome.
Love
And
that. That's
we're
awesome.
like
Very
encouraging
cool.
that too. Yeah. So 10 years from now, I don't know,
You've come a
maybe
long
those
way.
kids. Yeah, absolutely.
Students learn science best and retain it most when they learn it hands-on. For 50 years, one brand has provided consistent, reliable, and affordable materials to make those lessons possible. Frey Scientific. Available only at schoolspecialty.com.
Are you looking for reliable science equipment? For over 50 years, ISCO Scientific has been trusted by educators worldwide. Our family business offers over 6,500 products in physics, chemistry, biology, and labware. Need a beaker, anatomical model, or physics kit? We have you covered. ISCO Scientific. Trust, deliver, learn. Discover more at schoolspecialty.com/ISCO. EISCO.
And we're back. Can you share a personal story or an experience where integrating arts into a STEAM project or incorporating STEAM into everyday life and education, how that has led to an unexpected breakthrough or a very memorable learning moment for a student?
Absolutely. So one of my first few years in my gifted and talented position, and it was a lesson that I had done before, but I did a little bit of a different twist on it. These were the second graders, a particularly special group of second graders. Those groups, that will they all stay with us forever. But this one was a particularly motivated group, very empathetic group. And I read them the book, What Do You Do with an Idea by Kobe Yamada, which is one of my favorite, one of like the original STEM books that I still share with my kids every year. And my students had to create an invention to solve a problem. They had little different pieces of junk that they had to put together. And so before they came up with their idea for an invention, we brainstormed some ideas. So I made a T-chart on the board that had little problems on one side and big problems on the other side. And the students brainstormed some ideas. So the little problems were things that were kind of in their immediate orbit, things that were minor inconveniences in their everyday life, like cleaning their room or taking out the trash or, things that just were inconveniences for them in their little second grade world. And then we move on to the big problems in our world. And I was absolutely blown away with the 7 and 8-year-olds' responses because they immediately went to, problems not only in the world, but in our community. And they talked about poverty. They talked about homelessness. They talked about clean water. They talked about how some schools don't have the same resources as other schools. These are 7 and 8-year-olds.
Wow, they're noticing all those things. Wow.
Absolutely. So then we get to the invention part. They worked with partners, and one group made a homeless helper vehicle that delivered food and supplies to people in the community. And another one invented a water purifying machine. And this particular group, and it's just seeing what 7 and 8-year-olds are capable of. And for me, that was kind of this light bulb that the best STEM and STEAM challenges start with that empathy piece and that authentic drive to want to make the world a better place. And if we can start as young as 7 and 8 years old, or even younger than that, I think that empathy and inspiration starts in our classrooms, even as young as that. And that was kind of just an experience that I hope to carry on in other lessons with my students, read alouds that I share with them. Any way that I hope to inspire them is that is our ultimate goal. That is the ultimate goal of engineering, is to make our world better, right? So it was really memorable.
And I think by you doing lessons like that, it's helping students recognize that there is STEAM all over, like in our everyday lives. It's not just a separate, like, okay, now we're going to focus on STEAM. We're going to do STEAM for 30 minutes. Like it's all around us. So those, problem solving, like the solutions or those ideas, it's all STEAM related.
Absolutely.
Right? Just recognizing that.
Yes.
Do you have any like favorite STEAM lessons or innovations or trends that you're really excited about?
So many, so many favorites. And really, I decided what it comes down to is anything with an emphasis on physical science. I think that's my favorite area. Anytime things are flying across the room or things are where any kind of kids are celebrating and cheering for success because things are moving and working in different ways. Those are my favorites. So in first grade, we do chain reactions. And when they move on to my teammate that teaches upper grades, they move on to Rube Goldberg machines. So I love how they have that connection.
I love those.
You know, moving from, basics of Newton's third law to like actually solving problems with chain reactions. So that's one of the most memorable and exciting for them as a whole. My two favorites, the ones that they say at the very end of the year, looking back on their years with me, which are their two all-time favorites, pumpkin catapults are one of my favorite, another physical science challenge, potential and kinetic energy. So we do that one across 2 sessions. So the catapults, of course, are fun to construct. We test them, we improve them, we measure how far their little candy pumpkins travel. But then we also do kind of like Olympic games. We do little game stations where they take their catapult to each one and they do hitting a target and they do shooting it into a bucket and knocking over cups. And we call it the pumpkin catapult games. So that's one of my favorites as well. And then at the very end of second grade, we do paper roller coasters. And that's probably, if I had to pick one, that would be it. Because it's really difficult for my second graders to do. It takes a lot of testing, a lot of improving, a lot of redesigning, but that makes it that much sweeter in the end when they are successful. And, they learn a lot about each other and about the engineering design process just as a whole with that one too. So, so many favorites. Hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I would love to see the roller coaster in action. So after they build it, do you put something on it to like make it go?
A marble. So we use paper plate and we use cups and tape and they build the tracks. They, research different roller coaster designs. They can be so creative with this challenge. And I also put them in a little bit bigger groups than normal, 3 to 5 kids in a group, which means there's a lot of opinions, a lot of personalities coming together. And that's just the learning experience as a whole is just hard to beat. So it's pretty cool.
I love that. Okay. I'm going to bring the art component to this. You could have them create, like, whether it's like digital or just on paper, create like some kind of an ad to sell your roller coaster, to advertise that roller coaster.
I love that idea. This is why I need more. So I only see them once a week.
Yeah.
And this is why my plans change every single year because I have to decide what I want to teach. This is the biggest priority.
Yeah.
Do one more week. We got Lego spike kits this year and I could have done those.
Oh,
and they
I love that too.
Are you familiar with those spikes?
Yes. So I bought 3. Yes.
They're amazing.
My kids loved it. Yeah.
We spent almost a month with them.
Yes. Like the whole like roller coaster one where they have to like make the carousel or make a Ferris wheel and make, all of those things. And that's where I saw some of my students I have this one student who was a little bit of a challenge behaviorally. And, like, because he would act out in class a lot. Like a lot of the students thought like, oh, he's not going to participate in this, or we don't want him in our group, or, they had that kind of an attitude. But he was so good at making things work, like putting the codes in, like, and he would like make it play music and he just knew everything about it. So all of a sudden he became this popular kid. And so I loved how he started beaming, and he kind of like took on this role of like this like coding expert, when we were doing that. So I just see like you mentioned this, earlier on too. You see different students coming out of their shell and, and bring something to the table that we might not have noticed before, right?
That's going to be like a core memory for him. He's going to remember that forever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Being seen and valued that way. And I mean, especially one that was hesitant to participate before that. Like that's a game changer. That's wonderful.
Exactly. And he was limited in English too. So the fact that he was just like, give me your laptop. And he was just doing all of these things. I was like, yay.
Thank goodness for students like that, especially with new skills. Because I mean, when I was learning it right along with them, they're like, how do we do that? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Let's figure it out together. Right.
Right. Because even if it's like very step by step, like sometimes it doesn't work. Like one groups will work and another groups won't work. And I'll be like, okay, let's figure this out together. I'll be like, perfect. Call him over. Hey, I need my little expert. Can you explain to them what you did? And so it was kind of perfect. Okay. So this next question is kind of a crazy question. I was writing this and I'm like, well, how would I answer this? I'm like, I don't know. Okay. So if you could design a STEAM superhero team, what unique powers would each member bring to solve the global challenges? Like, for example, if you had a science superhero, technology superhero, engineering, art, and math, how would their combined abilities create solutions that individual disciplines couldn't?
So the science superhero would have to have
Mhm.
that natural curiosity and wonder, which you often
Ah,
see in early childhood students, right? But of course,
uh-huh.
all kids, they're going to be the one that is always looking to find the answers to those questions and to keep everyone excited to learn the answers to those questions.
Mhm.
For technology, they're always on the hunt for the latest and greatest tools, right? And technology
Mm.
to make work easier for the
Mhm.
team.
Mhm.
Engineering is my personal favorite. They would be my favorite superhero. The problem solving, the design, the architecture, the improvements of the design, the testing of the design.
Mhm.
For arts, that's where the beauty and the creativity will come to life, the architecture piece. Math is going to be accuracy and measurement and calculations to make that the whole design possible, the whole design mathematically possible. But I think we should put all teachers on the superhero team.
Yes.
We could
But
all
oh
do
my gosh,
it
I
together.
could not have even imagined a more perfect answer. As you're saying this, I keep on getting goosebumps. These are the happy chills. But I was like,
Oh, yay.
oh my gosh. I'm thinking like
This is why STEAM
costumes
is
for
so
this.
magical, because we do need all of it. We need every single piece, right? To make
Yes,
this kind of
yes.
life. But yeah.
Yeah. And like I'm such a right brain person. So I would definitely need like a, left brain person superhero to come in and help me with this too.
You on track?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, let's do it. I'm just going to join your team. Okay, so we have a segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners and like write in with a question for our guests to answer. And today's question comes from Melissa D. And her question is, can you see yourself having a reality TV show? And it doesn't have to be teaching related. Okay. What would be the title and what would be the premise of the show?
Okay.
I could
So
definitely see you having a show
I
for
don't
sure.
know. If I could be on a show, it would be Wheel of Fortune, like hands down. Like that's weird.
Ah,
As much as I love science, I'm also a big word nerd. So I
uh-huh.
would my kids tell me, you should go on that show, Mom. And I'm like, I don't think I'd be as
Well,
good in person
well,
as I am on
I
the
don't know.
couch.
I saw a post about Vanna retaring and she was all crying and
No.
talked. I was like, oh, you could be the new Vanna.
I love, we started watching in COVID, like, and
Uh-huh.
it's got hooked. And like, it's 6:30, it's Wheel of Fortune time, because we didn't have
Oh,
anything else
yeah.
to do that
Uh-huh.
day. But I love Wheel of Fortune. But if I could be on a existing show, that's what it would be. But you know what
Okay.
I thought would be really cool? The last time, I don't know if I'd call this a reality show, but my son and I love Lego Masters. And
Oh.
our favorite show to watch together. But
Mm-hmm.
it'd be really cool to have a Lego Masters for kids. They have different STEAM design challenges, that are more
Oh. Do they
developmentally
that?
appropriate. I don't think so.
Oh.
I see ones that
No.
we've always seen are really talented adults, and they have, crazy
Okay.
challenges, and it's so much
Mm-hmm.
fun to watch. But I think it'd be really cool to have kind of like Kids Bake Off, but it would be like,
Yeah, with Lego.
kids
Yeah.
challenge.
Ooh. And the
I could be the
secret
host
challenge
of
or the
that, or I
secret
could be
and
the
guarantee.
facilitator.
Okay, I need to contact all these networks and say, I have an idea for you. I
Love
would
it.
watch that. I
Yeah,
love.
it'd be so much fun.
Okay, I mean, I could just talk to you all day. But okay, so if our listeners wanted to learn more about what you do and what ideas you're sharing and what kind of STEAM, what your STEAM bins look like, where can they go to see your resources or to learn more about
So my
you?
website is teachoutsideTheBox.com. That has my blog, has all of my resources for sale, all of my recommendations for favorite makerspace tools and read
Mm-hmm.
alouds for STEM and STEAM are found there.
Mm-hmm.
My Teachers Pay Teachers shop is Brooke Brown Teach Outside the Box. And on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, I am Teach Outside the Box. So pretty easy to remember.
That's amazing. Okay, so I'm sure we could go on to your blog too and all of those resources and for teachers who are just getting started out. I mean, so it's not just for people who have been doing it or people who are experts. Do you have something for like
Absolutely.
beginners
I'm
STEAM
actually
teachers too?
working on a package of resources right now that I published one
Oh.
last week, and I published one this week. One is a STEM or just really just a specialty teacher. I know, like, for example, I'm gifted and talented, but I have many of the same roles as a makerspace teacher or a media specialist or a STEM teacher. So I have a planner that I've created that is specifically for those specialty teachers. And then I just got a new one yesterday that is all about classroom management. So from my experience going from general ed to specialty, it's a whole different animal with managing multiple classes, managing multiple grade levels too. I'm working on that. That one is published. And then I have one more with back to school, introducing the engineering design process to kids.
Perfect.
What is STEAM? What is STEM? And, those basics for the first few weeks of school. So that one will hopefully be published next week. So it's like a 3 that are just really ideal for new STEM and STEAM teachers. Cause that's a question I get a lot on how, where do you start? Where do you begin?
Right. And especially in the beginning of the year, because we want to make sure that this is not just something that you do like one time a year, but something that we put into practice in our everyday teaching. So even if we don't do it every single day, to have these resources available starting beginning of the year, that would be so amazing. So this is so timely. This is perfect for back to school times. So yay, I'm so excited. Well, Brooke, the time went by so fast.
I know.
I feel like I could keep on asking more questions. We could chat all day. But thank you so much.
I want to come to your room too, though.
So that could be a reality show, like teachers visiting different teachers in different states to learn all how different everything is run and how that would be really fun.
That would be wonderful.
We just need to find a sponsor.
Yes. Sisterhood of the traveling teachers.
Ooh,
I love it.
Sisterhood of teacherhood of traveling STEM bin
or something
like
really fun places and new cities and meet new people. I would love that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Well, thank you so much for being on the Schoolyard Podcast. You've been amazing, and I hope to have you back again.
I would love to be back. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Schoolyard Podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag, you're it. Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard Podcast for our segment called Tag, You're It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter at School Specialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag Your It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. And if your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard Podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.